Hey guys, I'm Justin Czar with bowhunting.com, and I am here with Jerry Tepps from Pine Ridge Archery. Today we're going to be talking to you a little bit about arrow building. Now Jerry, we're not going to be showing everybody exactly how to build your own arrows. You can actually find that information on bowhunting.com, but what we are going to be talking about is some of the basic tools that you guys need in order to build your own arrows. And along the way, we're going to give you some tips and tricks that Jerry and I have picked up along the year. So Jerry, first things first, we've got, let's say, a raw arrow shaft that just came in. We ordered it from our friends over at Lancaster Archery. It showed up. What's the first thing we're going to have to do with it?
Well, the first thing you're going to want to do is fletch it. Figure out what kind of fletchings that you're going to want.
So I'm going to fletch it before I cut it.
I like to fletch them before I cut them.
Fair enough. I like to cut before I fletch, but it sounds like you could do it in either way. So we're going to start with fletching, right? So guys, obviously there's a variety of different fletchings out on the market, whether you want veins, whether you want feathers, different lengths, different color combinations. Right. Jerry, I see we've got some Nitro veins here today from Pine Ridge. While we're here, why don't you just tell us a little bit about them?
They are 2-inch vein. What's unique about ours is that they do have these glue pockets on the bottom. What's nice about that, it holds more glue, it sticks to the shaft better.
Okay, fair enough. So if you guys are using Nitro veins, you know, there's a couple different ways, and there's a variety of different tools out there that you guys can use. These are just two of the different methods. So Jerry, I see we've got a Bitzenburger Jig, and we've got an EZ Fletch as well,
Arizona
correct?
EZ Fletch, yep.
Okay, and talk to us just real briefly about the differences between the two of them.
What's nice with the EZ Fletch, the Arizona EZ Fletch, is like in this model, you can get yourself built with a built-in helical, and you could do 3 fletchings at a time. So you put your fletchings in, put your shaft, put a bead on each one, close it up, and you're done. Put the cap on it, let it dry for 7 to 10 seconds, take it off, and you're ready to go.
So literally fletching an arrow. In my opinion, that's probably one of the easiest ways to glue your own arrow or your own fletchings onto your arrows. Now, the Bitzenburger is a jig that's been around for many, many years. I remember being a little kid, my dad, you know, sitting at home fletching arrows at night, and it's still probably one of the most popular arrow fletching tools that are out there.
It is, and what's, you know, again, unique with this is that it's fully adjustable, so you can do that offset on it. But what's really nice, you do 1 fletching at a time on this. Let it dry, gives you, a little bit of time with it. That's where, depending on the glue that you're using, whether it's a gel or the instant glue.
Sure. So now when it comes to glue, guys, obviously you're going to need to glue your veins or your feathers onto your arrows. There are a variety of different products out there. One of the most common ones is like an instant arrow glue here from Pine Ridge. This is kind of like a super glue, so to speak. As Jerry said, you've got 7 to 10 seconds, so you run your bead on your vein, put it on, and it is pretty much ready to go. So let's say now we've fletched our arrow. So now, Jerry, we've got a fletched arrow here. We've got 3 fletchings on it. Next thing we're going to do is?
You want to obviously cut the arrow to size. So either if you have one of your old arrows that you can measure to, put a line on so you know where to cut it, or you know, the classic way is to draw it back with a friend, have a mark it. About 1 inch in front of your rest is about it.
Sure. So obviously, guys, you're going to need an arrow saw if you want to cut your own arrows. We've got one here from Apple. It's a very simple device, guys. Just make sure that you're being safe when you use these. Wear safety goggles. But essentially, you know, this stopper here on the end is going to slide back and forth. Depending on how long you want the arrow, you're going to put it in there. You're going to go ahead and cut the arrow. So at this point, you're going to spin the arrow around. You're going to cut the arrow. So now you've got an arrow that's fletched and cut down to size. One of the most important things to do next is to make sure that you square the end of that arrow and that you clean it before you put your insert in. So Jerry, what we've got here, this is a fast tool from the guys over at Burt Coyote, which is Luminoc. This particular device is meant to be able to square both ends of your arrow, whether it's fletched or not, which is probably one of the big advantages of this tool over some of the other ones on the market. So the way that it works, guys, is you're going to cut your arrow, you're going to put it in here, and you're simply going to rotate it back and forth. And what it's going to do is it's got an adhesive pad here on the end that's actually going to square and make that a perfect 90-degree end of your arrow. What you're going to find, and what I found over the years of cutting my own arrows, is these saws are great, but they're not perfect.
No, they're not.
That cut is always going to be a little bit off every time. I've yet to see one that is perfect. You know, one tip that somebody showed me a couple years ago was to take a Sharpie, like a gold or a silver Sharpie, after you've cut your arrow, and actually mark the end of your arrow, run it on your arrow squaring tool, your fast tool, until all that mark is gone off of there. That's how you know when it's fully going to be square.
Great tip.
So now we've got the end of the arrow, it's squared off. Now we want to clean it before we put our insert in. So what are we going to do next?
I like to use a scoring tool. A lot of guys will use a brush that you would use like for a firearms brush.
Okay.
Just simply goes into the end, scores the inside of the shaft, pull it out. It's got some ridges on it to actually do the scoring.
Sure. And it's just going to give the adhesive or the epoxy a little bit more to bite onto.
Exactly.
The insides of these arrow shafts are pretty slick, so being able to just kind of rough it up a little bit,
yep.
before that. And then, of course, guys, you want to make sure, in order to get the best adhesion with your glue, that you clean out the inside of your arrow shaft. Generally, we're using a little bit of rubbing alcohol or some acetone.
Right. You want to use something in there just to clean it out. Water we'll use fine if you're in a pinch. But, if you got alcohol, go ahead and put some alcohol in there.
So you're going to use alcohol or acetone on a Q-tip. You're going to stick that in there. Generally, you're going to clean out that end. You're going to see when you pull this Q-tip out, carbon. It's going to be, this thing is going to be almost black. So usually I like to use, one end of the Q-tip per arrow. So you're going to want, 6 or 10 Q-tips available if you're doing a dozen. So now that we've got the end of the arrow, it's going to be squared off, it's going to be clean. Next thing we're going to want to do is actually put our insert in.
Right, we're going to glue our insert in using the instant. If it's a outsert or a hidden insert, you're going to want to use the insert glue. This is a little longer drying time. Gives you a chance to maneuver that broadhead or index that broadhead to your veins and while you're spinning it.
So typically what I like to do too, guys, is make sure that you want to make sure you get an even distribution of epoxy or of glue all the way around the entire insert.
Right.
So usually, I'll put some glue on there, and then as I slide that down, I'm going to go ahead and spin it around. Right, just to make sure you're getting good, even coverage all the way around. You're going to put it in. Now at this point, this is kind of an optional step, but what a lot of people like to do is actually spin test their arrows once they've got the insert in.
Right.
So they'll put an insert in with a broadhead or a field point on it, and they'll actually use something like this Pine Ridge Arrow Inspector to spin that arrow, make sure that it's spinning true.
Right.
And if it's not, you can take it off, and with using an insert glue like this, it takes about 90 seconds to set. You can actually tweak that insert and keep spinning it until you get it true.
Yeah.
Exactly. So guys, that's kind of the basic steps for building an arrow and some of the tools that you're going to need. Now, Jerry, one tip on storing your glue, because it's something we get asked a lot.
We hear this all the time. How long does your glue last? How long should it last? Basically, if you open up this bottle of glue and you are done with it, purge the air out of it. Air and moisture, humidity is the worst enemy for glue. That'll start activating the glue. So what you want to do is you want to purge as much air out, put the cap on it, throw it in your refrigerator or at least in your freezer. It won't freeze. So the next time you want to use it at home, you do a dozen arrows a year, you don't want your glue to go bad. So just throw it in the refrigerator, throw it in the freezer.
When you miss as many animals as I do, you're fletching more than a dozen a year.
But at least you'll have good glue.
Absolutely. No, that is a great tip. Well, there you go, guys. We hope you appreciated this video. Thank you for watching. Make sure you leave your comments below. Let us know what you thought. Jerry, appreciate you stopping by, man.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate
and
having us.
Good luck to everybody out there with building your own arrows.